Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We're going to begin with a few Shabbat songs before we move into the lighting of our Hanukkah and our Shabbat lights. We're on page 10. We're going to begin with the words, Hine ma tov, how good it is that we can all gather together. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Together. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. We're on the middle of that page, Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh Avarakaman. Yedid Nefesh Avarakaman. Mishogam Lecha El Ritzonecha. Mishogam Lecha Yananai El Ritzonecha. Yarutz Avdecha Kemo Hayal. Yishtakavei Yananai El Mul Hadarecha. Yedid Nefesh, sing with us. Yedid Nefesh Avarakaman. Yedid Nefesh Avarakaman. Mishogam Lecha El Ritzonecha. Mishogam Lecha Yananai El Ritzonecha. So Shabbat Shalom and Hanukkah Sameach. So in a moment, what we're going to do is a really nice ritual that I love that we do each Shabbat that Hanukkah falls in, which is that we're going to take a moment and get a chance not only to light our communal Hanukkah, but also each and every Hanukkah that was brought. And so apologies to those who are watching online, but we're going to block you. And I'm going to invite everybody up, even if you didn't bring one, to come stand around these as together we light the Hanukkah together. And if you brought one, you can feel free, if you hadn't already left it up here, to leave it up and come on around.
All right, let's go closer. You can do it.
We've got some matches on the table over there for anybody who wants,
You can hold this. Hold it really
as we
tight.
join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavoteinu, bayamim hahem, bazman hazeh. In our tradition, we first light the Hanukkah candles, since once we light the Shabbat candles, technically we can't light any more candles after that. But I actually love the fact that even that is up for a debate. And the reason why is that Judaism has this really interesting principle, which is called tadir ve'eno tadir, tadir kodem. That when you have the choice to do something that you do all the time, or something that you only do on special occasions, the thing you do every time takes precedence. Now that gets switched because of this whole prohibition about lighting the Hanukkah candles after you've already kind of called in Shabbat, because technically you can't then light fires afterwards. But I do want to give nod to that minority opinion, because it's really a beautiful idea in Judaism. Look, we often look at the thing that is new, the people who walk in that we haven't seen in a while, the idea that, that the latest and greatest thing is always the thing that you're going to pay attention to. But sometimes it's the dependable, the week in, the week out, the prayers that you say all the time, the people that you see all the time, the regulars, the dependable faces that often shouldn't be forgotten either. And in a way, Shabbat is a dependable face in our tradition. Shabbat is the regular in Jewish time. And Hanukkah is this kind of, to lack of a better word, this kind of sexy new thing that shows up once a year and commands attention. But actually, Shabbat has earned its place because we see it for 52 weeks. And so we give Shabbat its due by lighting our candles and blessing our wine. And I think Ronnie is over there now, and so she is going to lead us in the Shabbat candles and in the Kiddush, and we can join together with her.
Now we know why everyone has a hard time at these matches. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Shabbat Shalom and Hanukkah Sameach. We can head back to our seats. we head back to our seats, we're on page 20 as we join together in L'chadodi. Let's hear you. Lechadoti likrat kala yana 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 b'nei Shabbat mikabela yaira yaira lechadoti likrat kala yana 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 b'nei Shabbat mikabela likrat Shabbat. Verse 5. Hitoreri, kiva orei, uri, shir daveri, kevod Adonai, alayim mikla, lechadoti likrat kala, yanalai, b'nei Shabbat, mikabelai, yahirai, lechadoti likrat kala, yanalai, b'nei Shabbat, mikabelai. Verse 9. We move forward in our prayer books to page 28. it together as we move forward in our prayer books. We're on page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv, Aravim. Page 32. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chuvim u'mishpatim, Otanu lemadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, B'shalmeinu u'b'kumeinu, Nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratcha, u'b'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, li'orech yameinu, li'orech yameinu, u'bahem negeh, yomam v'layla, yomam v'layla.
V'yavatecha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Page 36.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shiftecha b'veitecha uv'lektecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet.
So in a moment, we're going to turn to page 40, and we're going to join together in Micha Mocha to a familiar tune from this holiday season, a tune that you know of Ma'ot Sor. One of the things I love about pairing these two together is that Ma'ot Tzor makes a very similar theological statement to Mi Chamocha, right? Mi Chamocha ultimately is the prayer that the Israelites sang after they crossed the sea. And in their gratitude to God, they said, Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, who is like you among the gods? In a way, Jewish tradition understands that the true hero of the Exodus story is God. So much so, by the way, that in a traditional Haggadah, Moses' name isn't even mentioned, lest you confuse who the hero is between him and God. And Ma'ot Tzor, by the way, is the same. In the Middle Ages, when this was originally composed, there was this kind of ultimate debate throughout time about whether or not the Maccabees or God should get credit for Hanukkah. Not necessarily the miracle. Nobody but God could make oil that was supposed to last for one day last for 8. But rather the war. Whether or not it was through the fortitude of humanity or whether the miracle of the divine that we managed to persevere against the Seleucid Greeks. And this text is one of the more definitive statements that gives God the credit. And the reason that is because in the Middle Ages, when we had no power, no agency, the dream of the people was that God would swoop in at times of the Inquisition, of the Black Plague, of Jewish blood libel, of all of the things that define the persecutions of the Middle Ages. The Jews turned to God and said, you were here for us during the Hanukkah story, be here for us now. And that sign of hope that redemption will come, which was found by the shores of the sea, and that one day might be found in the houses of those living in medieval Europe, became the impetus for this familiar tune. Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha, ba'elim Adonai, mi Chamocha, netar b'kodesh, norah tehilot, osef eleh, norah tehilot, osef eleh, norah tehilot, osef eleh. Verse 2. Ma'alechutecha ra'u vanecha bokeyam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam zeli anu ve'yameru Adonai imlo le'olam va'ed Adonai imlo le'olam va'ed.
ונאמר כי פד אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מהחזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Page 42. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hadmigenu shomrei l'chayim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hadmigenu shomrei l'chayim. The indented portion on the middle of that page. Ushmor seitenu umoenu under the moon. And I thank God I'm breathing. And I pray, don't take me soon. God, I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds me, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play. One day, 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 one day. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. We rise together as we turn to page 46, and we'll pray silently through page 60. In the middle of the Amidah, at the Thanksgiving prayer, there's a special edition for Hanukkah. You can find a kind of hyperlink on the bottom of that page toward the back of the page with that. If you miss it, don't worry. That's going to be the song we come out of silent prayer with as well.
Adonai, sefatai tiftach, ufi yagi tehilatecha.
page 264. 264. That insert, Al Hanisim Ve'al Haporkan, that the miracles of Hanukkah, especially in those days of the Maccabees, echo out into eternity. Al Hanisim Ve'al Haporkan Ve'al Hagvurot Ve'al Hashuvot Ve'al Hamilchamot She'asita Lavoteinu Bayamim Ha'em B'zman Hazeh. Al Hanisim, Al Hanisim Ve'al Haporkan Ve'al Hagvurot Ve'al Hashuvot Ve'al Hamilchamot She'asita Lavoteinu Bayamim Ha'em B'zman Hazeh. Al Hanisim Ve'al Haporkan Ve'al Hagvurot Ve'al Hashuvot Ve'al Hamilchamot She'asita Lavoteinu Bayamim Ha'em B'zman Hazeh. Al Hanisim, Al Hanisim Ve'al Haporkan Ve'al Hagvurot Ve'al Hashuvot Ve'al Hamilchamot She'asita Lavoteinu Bayamim Ha'em B'zman Hazeh. Al Hanisim Ve'al Haporkan Ve'al Hagvurot Ve'al Hashuvot Ve'al Hamilchamot She'asita Lavoteinu Bayamim Ha'em B'zman Hazeh. So we turn now, page 62. Shalom b'mromah, Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'yivru. Shalom b'mromah, Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'yimru v'yimeru. Amen. Each week, we add a special prayer for Israel. Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, we ask that you bless the state of Israel and all of Israel's inhabitants. Makor Chaim, source of life, bless and strengthen those who defend the land and ensure their safe and speedy return home. Protect them and guide them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, holy and blessed one, show Israel's leaders your paths so they may act with wisdom, courage, and dedication, and that they may be unwavering in their pursuit of peace. Strengthen their hearts, but keep their hearts from hardening. Adonai Poked, God who remembers. It has been almost a year and a half, and there are more than 100 people being currently held in Gaza, many of whom are thought to be alive, and their time is running out. They include Avinatan Or, age 30, Daniela Gilboa, 19, Shlomo Mansour, 85, Bipin Joshi, 23, Sasha Truvanoff, 30, Arabelle Yehud, 28, Hamza Ziadne, 22, and Emily Damari, 27. Matir Asurim, freer of captives, return all those who are kidnapped safe and sound to their homes, without the spilling of more innocent blood, without any more souls being tarnished by horrific acts. Ba'al HaRachamim, master of compassion, help us to hold the humanity and the heartache of the Jewish people, of all the residents of the state of Israel, while also holding the humanity and the dignity and the lives of the Palestinian people. As we are made in your image, remind us of your ways. Spread over us a shelter of peace and fulfill the vision of your prophets. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. They shall never again know war.
We move ahead to page 253 with our hearts cracked wide open to pray for those in need of healing with our Misha Berach. And I'll look around the room in a few moments and ask for names. I'm sure there are lots of them. And then we can also see on our screen there are many names. Misha Berach Avotenu Vimotenu, Avraham Yitzchak V'Yaakov, Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah, Uivarech et HaKolim. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Yesterday, I had the privilege of traveling over to Pelham to visit with a friend of mine that some of you actually met because he came to my house for a book talk. His name is Ben Resnick. He's a rabbi in Pelham, and he wrote this amazing book called Next Stop about anti-Semitism and the current moment, and it's fiction. It's really worth the read if you haven't read it. And while we were sitting around eating leftover Chinese food, by the way, this will be my third or fourth Chinese meal tonight, Ben shared with me this really interesting teaching that I want to kind of share with you and then build off a little bit because I think it has something really profound to say about the current moment. He talked about the fact that in our tradition, we often hear these words, 20 amot, everywhere you go. Now, what is an amma? An amma is a measurement, right? It is from the tip of your finger to your elbow. So it's kind of the ancient way of saying a yard. It's the closest thing that we have. And there's plenty of times in our tradition where something is not allowed to be higher than 20 amot from you in order to be feasible, right? How high can a sukkah be and still be a valid sukkah? The answer is under 20 amot. As soon as you build it that high, which by the way is a pretty high sukkah, it suddenly stops being kosher because ultimately the amount of light that can get in through the cracks gets messed up because where you're standing, you can't actually see the ceiling because it's too high from you. The same, by the way, goes with a Chanukiah. The Chanukiah that we have behind us is important insofar as we are getting value from the light that we are watching. We are being reminded of the miracle of Hanukkah. We are watching the flames dance behind us. And in fact, the light needs to be put in two places in your house simultaneously. One is at a window to broadcast to other people the miracle of Hanukkah, but the other is in a place where you yourself can see it so that you do not forget the miracle of Hanukkah before you. But if you have a house that is a little too big, 20 amot, and you put that Chanukiah too high above you, it doesn't count anymore. You cannot see the light. The central pieces of both of those commandments, the building the roof on the sukkah and the watching of the light on Hanukkah, becomes null and void when you aren't allowed to look high enough to see it. When you wouldn't be able to just catch it with your eye, but rather you'd crane your neck and you'd have to look for it rather than stumble upon it. Now, 20 amot comes out in other places as well, but one of the more notable places has to do with this week's Torah portion, and this is what Ben taught me. When Joseph was thrown into the pit, that pit, according to our rabbis, was 20 amot deep. Now, why would they go through the trouble of explaining that? Well, if 20 amot means that you cannot see the light, then you have to imagine he's so far deep down into that pit before he gets lifted up and brought into slavery that ultimately he cannot see the light either. He is stuck. He is trapped. It's dark down there, and he wonders if he will ever get out. Now, as we know, because it was in last week's Torah portion, he does. He gets dragged out of that hole by the Ishmaelites. He gets sold into slavery. He eventually finds himself in the employ of Potiphar. And when his wife tries to seduce him and he says no to her, ultimately, he ends up thrown in jail. And we find at the beginning of this week's Torah portion a Joseph who is forlorn, a Joseph who is trapped, but a Joseph who eventually gets freed, rises to prominence, and becomes the second most powerful person in all of Egypt. He finds his way out of that deep, dark hole. Now, eventually, he gets reunited with his brothers, and after his father's death, next week, we are ultimately, actually 2 weeks from now, we ultimately find that when he and his brothers go to bury their father, he makes his way back to that pit. And he stands on the edge of that pit and he looks down into it. And I wonder what he thought. Because when you're deep in that pit, looking up, unable to see the light so far deep down, and you can't imagine ever getting out, it is a different view than having persevered, than having risen above, than being able to stand there and look down and see where you came from. And I have to imagine that maybe that pit didn't look so deep to him in that moment. Sometimes we just are in a place that we cannot see the light, and we need to find a way to get out. And ultimately, Hanukkah is that time that we are supposed to be reminded that we can see the light. It's no accident that so many traditions throughout the world have decided to place a light holiday at the time when it is darkest. And indeed, it feels dark for so many reasons right now. I feel very much the weight of the world on my shoulders. Every time I read the news, I feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. I feel the weight here in America. I feel the weight in Israel. I feel the weight in far-flung places that I have never been and have no relationship to, but yet feel somehow connected to, just by the nature that my soul is bound up in the soul of every human being living on this earth right now. There is a heaviness, there is a darkness. I am down 20 amot, and sometimes when I look up, I can't see that light either. But I have stories like Joseph of people who get out, people who can find their way to the edge of that hole, can look down and to see that, in fact, that light did exist even when we couldn't find it. And Hanukkah reminds us that that light exists. For as heavy as things are, as much as you don't want to carry, as tired as your shoulders are, we light the candles each and every night as a sign of not only defiance against the darkness, but of hope, of optimism, of being able to raise ourselves up. There is a reason that each and every night we add a little bit more light. You've probably heard me tell about the famous debate between Hillel and Shammai, who argued about whether or not one should begin with 8 candles, diminishing one each day, symbolizing the cruse of oil getting less and less and less. That was Shammai's opinion. Or Hillel, who said to him, although what you say makes rational sense, although what you say ultimately follows what happened at the holiday, what we need is different. What we need is an understanding that at times of darkness, we don't grow more and more forlorn, but we grow more and more joyous, that the light increases, that the hope increases, that the darkness is cast more and more away. I love, by the way, when Hanukkah falls at this time of year. Not necessarily because I love the intersection of Hanukkah and Christmas, though that's wonderful as well. But rather it's because December 21st was the darkest day of the year, which means that each and every day we get actually a little bit more light in nature. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes when Hanukkah falls early in the month of December, we actually find that as we're adding more and more light, the world is growing more and more darker. But I'm finding that as we add more light this year, we're clawing our way up from that deep, dark hole. We are finding a way out. And we know that it worked for the Maccabees, and it worked for every generation. That if you give enough hope, that hole that you're in just feels a little less deep. That you just have to try just a little less hard to see the light. That maybe you don't have to crane your neck so much, but rather you rise up or the opening shrinks down so that first you can make it out just a little bit in your peripheral vision, and then it comes to you. And you get a chance to look back with the retrospect that Joseph brought when he revisited that hole when he buried his father, understanding that there is a way out. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to turn to page 282 as we rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishvechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
We're seated together. Our thoughts go out to those who we've loved and who we've lost. This Shabbat, we recall the following individuals. And I'll invite you to rise as I say your loved one's name. Erwin Bellman, Herbert Brodsky, Seymour Dolobowski, Max Etroff, Bernard Fisher, Minnie Frost, Adele Gasworth, Benjamin Gersh, Albert Goldstein, Aaron Holtzman, Florence Horowitz, Dora Idelson, Herman Knerik, Arnold Cantor, Hillary Ann Kirschenbaum, Florence Klein, Julius Krakauer, Bobby Rudolph Colwyn, Mir Landsman, Samuel Marger, Christine Mattis, John Patrician, Stanley Pesner, Gabriel Robbins, Mark Allen Rosenberg, Ruben Sabin, Louis Shapiro, David Sheffer, Ruth Schwartz, Harold Shepett, Nathan Strumpf, Lily Vigdor, and Florence Wolfson. And those who are in their Shiva and Shloshim periods of mourning, David Nathaniel Snyder, father of Stephen Snyder, Jerry Bubrick, father of Gabby and Maya Bubrick, former husband of Michelle Vago, Lev Lazarov, brother of Asya Eugenia, and Lawrence Rosendorf, father of Eric Rosendorf. I'll invite you to rise and to share the name of someone that you're thinking who you are within your 1 year period of mourning for, or that you're observing a yard site that may not have been on this list. We rise together, page 294. Itgadal v'itgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad divrach kirutei v'yamlech malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei techo beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'rechu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran b'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, huya aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Please be seated. So a few announcements. Tomorrow morning services are at 10 a.m. We have our Torah study at 8:30 in the morning. We have a number of events coming up throughout the course of the next month. On the 7th, we actually have a screening of the documentary, I Will Build This World from Love, which we premiered actually at the film festival, the Montclair Film Festival. We are going to be showing it here. It's the story of the Peace Cathedral, Synagogue, and Mosque in Tbilisi, Georgia, really starring our cantor Meredith Greenberg. In addition, at the end of the month, on the 25th, we have our Shabbaton. Ronnie, you want to say a word about that?
To say a few words about the Shabbaton. We have some great cooks that are doing lots of chefing for us. So I like to put them up front because, it brings food and brings Jews together. But it's really a day of food for the body, mind, and soul. There is Tai Chi and yoga first thing in the morning. Then there's tefillah, an awesome lunch. There's a little bit of breakfast before that as well. And then there's sessions to choose from right after lunch. And then there's, of course, more food. There's a Sudash Leishit, but in the afternoon, there'll be a global session together with Amy Ginsberg Bickel, who is Theodore Bickel's wife, and there will be a retrospective of him, so that might be really fun. And it's a multimedia presentation. So join us. It costs nothing for members, so sign up.
Yes. Two more things. On the 2nd in the afternoon, the Attorney General is giving his yearly kind of Hanukkah briefing. And normally he does it in Trenton, but because he lives in Montclair, because he's a member here. He asked if he could do it here, and he is inviting us to it as well. And so, look, law enforcement's going to be here, leaders in the Jewish community are going to be here, and anyone who, the 2nd of January. And so if anybody, yeah, we'll send something out for it, but if anybody wants to join us for that, feel free to, and you can, you'll be part of his briefing and Hanukkah celebration with everyone. And finally, at the end, actually the beginning of February, it is our annual TNT Gala. And so if you haven't yet got your tickets, registration is live for that. We don't want cost to be a barrier, so if you see the cost, remember it is a fundraising gala. It's our only big fundraiser for the year, besides our High Holy Day appeal. But if cost is a problem, come talk to me. We want to make sure everyone who wants to can come. So with that, we're going to end with some Hanukkah songs, and then we're going to join together for our Chinese food next door. Getting a little greasy food in for Hanukkah. Oh,
no, it's fresh.
It is fresh.
And all of the songs will be up on the screen. So squint if you can't see, but you might know them. They'll be there in a moment, I promise.
And by the way, even if you didn't register, we bought plenty of food. And looking around at the number in this room, we have enough food for everybody in this room. So even if you didn't register, stick around for dinner. And even if you can't stick around for dinner, make yourself a plate. So we're going to skip the official closing song. We'll go right to Hanukkah, Oh Hanukkah. Oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. Cradles to play with and latkes to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Sivivon, Sivivon, Sov, 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 Hanukkah, Hu Chatov, Hanukkah, Hu Chatov, Sivivon, Sov, Sov, Sov. Simcha Ula'am, Nes Gadol Haya Sham, Nes Gadol Haya Sham, Chag Simcha Ula'am. Sivivon, Sivivon, Sov, 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 Hanukkah, Hu Chatov, Hanukkah, Hu Chatov, Sivivon, Sov, 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 Chag Simcha Ula'am, Nes Gadol Haya Sham, Nes Gadol Haya Sham, Chag Simcha Ula'am. Turn to the next slide. Mi Yimalel Gvurot Yisrael Otanu Mine Hine Vodor Yahum Hadivor Oel Ha'am. Mi Yimalel Gvurot Yisrael Otanu Mine Hine Vodor Yahum Hadivor Oel Ha'am. Shema Vayamim Mahem Bazman Hazeh Maccabi Moshiach Ufodeh Uvyonei Kol Am Yisrael Yitachen Yakum V'yitalel. In English, who can retell? Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero as age came to our aid. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero as age came to our aid. I realize I have different words than you. Maccabi the temple did restore. We'll go with my words. And today the people all have dreams. We'll arise, unite, and be redeemed. V-L-L-L in Hebrew. V'yimel Gvurot Yisrael Otani Limeh. בורח ומגיבור גואל העם. Me and the left who wrote Israel Otani in Bechor Umagibor Goel.
Did you make up those words in there? They're different than the ones
I
we
know,
have.
I know. Well, that's the problem with the thing that's translated. Sometimes you find different poems. No, I have different words. You have different words. We're going to end with Ma'otzor, and then we'll go eat together. Ma'otzor Yeshuati Lechana El Shabbat Tikon Beit Tefilati Bisham Toda Nizabeya Li'ekachin Matbeya Mitzar Hamnabeya Azekor Yeshir Mizmor Hanukkah Mizbeya Azekor Yeshir Mizmor Hanukkah Mizbeya. I'm pretty sure our words will match on this one. Rock of Ages. Rock of Ages, let our song raise your saving power. You amidst the raging foam were our sheltering tower. Furious they assailed us, but your arms assailed us, and your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us, and your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. Shabbat Shalom and Hanukkah Sameach. Thank you, Ed. We'll say a quick motzi, and then we'll join together. I've been joking that it's greasy Chinese food, partly because we're supposed to eat oily food. This one's pretty good. So we're going to say together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
B'tei avon.
Enjoy dinner. Make sure, even if you have an RCP, to stay.